time now for our daily check-in at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. And for that, France 24's business editor Kate Moody is standing by there for us. Good morning, Kate. So Ukraine's president then is among the world leaders set to speak this Wednesday by video conference.
Yeah, Aaron, we're expecting to hear from him later on this afternoon. He did address the World Economic Forum by video message last May as well. His wife, the First Lady, Olena Zelenska, gave opening remarks in person on Tuesday. We'll be hearing from him, though, as you said, by video message. High-level Ukrainian officials have been taking part in panel discussions throughout the week. And along the main street here in the town of Davos is a building devoted to a project called Ukraine is You. So support for Ukraine very much across the board here. And of course, the ripple effects that are being felt around the world are really the top issue for politicians and businesses alike here. We'll be hearing from the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres later. He'll be giving a call for peace in his address. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also likely to speak about Ukraine and European support for it. He's facing more pressure to allow German-made tanks to be sent to Ukraine. So we'll have to listen to see if he addresses those calls. We're also expecting him to address the economic outlook and challenges. He's been telling Bloomberg this week he does believe that Europe's largest economy will escape a prolonged contraction. That sense of very, very, I have to say, cautious optimism reflected by many Western leaders about the economic outlook now. But the underpinning warning here is that any downturn in the developed world will have a longer and a deeper effect on developing countries as well. That's one of the issues that I'll be discussing later on today with the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva.
Now, Kate, Volodymyr Zelensky's remarks, I think, are probably all the more relevant as Europe's energy crisis, largely due to the consequences of that war, is one of the common threads throughout many of the discussions at this forum.
Yeah, the sort of conflicting nature, in fact, of Europe's energy crises. It needed to stop its dependence on Russian fossil fuels while keeping the lights and heating on for households and businesses, but still trying to stick to its goals of reaching net zero by 2050. Now, I'll be speaking to public and private sector leaders at a special debate in partnership with the World Economic Forum later on this afternoon. We'll be addressing that very question. But for now, at least, most European leaders are congratulating themselves on what they believe is secure energy supplies for this winter. The European Commission President Ursula Von der Leyen told me that she considers it an achievement of European solidarity and cooperation. Take a listen.
It was hard work last year to push back on the Russian blackmail, but we managed and we were successful. And it was a joint effort and a joint success. So we remember very vividly that at the beginning of Russia's war, we were heavily dependent on Russian fossil fuels. We've gotten rid of Russian coal. We are winding down Russian oil. And Russia has cut 80% of its pipeline gas to the European Union. At the beginning, everybody was scared that we're going to have blackouts, but we got our act together. We diversified away to trusted partner like the United States, like Norway, for example. We saved energy, reduced our demand by 20%. We filled our storages, and we invested heavily in renewable energy. We doubled the deployment of renewable energy. And now we see that at this time of the winter, our storages are filled the highest level ever. And the price for gas has gone down by more than 80% since last summer. So it's a big success. We're not out of the woods. Of course, the relatively warm winter helps, but we're in a much better position than we thought months ago. Now we have to look into the year 2023. We still have to attract a lot of LNG. We have to invest in renewables, but we are on a good track.
So, Kate, the World Economic Forum often calls for action on climate change, as you've been saying, but in one of the contradictions of the event, a new report has shown just how many private jets fly into Davos.
Yeah, last year's meeting in May saw twice as many private jets landing in and around Davos as usual for a week-long period. And that leads to a real spike in carbon emissions, roughly the equivalent of putting 350,000 gasoline-powered cars on the road for that same week-long period. That's the analysis from a report by Greenpeace, which also shows that more than half of the more than 1,000 private jets that landed around here in 1 week last year were flying fairly short distances, less than 500 miles. That's led Greenpeace to call for a ban on private jets here in Davos, encouraging even VIPs to use Switzerland's fast, fairly efficient train system. It's also led to the likes of the U.S. climate envoy John Kerry being put on the spot to defend his own use of private jets while coming to events like this. He said he offsets emissions when he can. Now, all week we've seen protests near Davos by climate activists, many of them describing the presence of directors of oil and gas giants here at an event that's supposed to be focused on sustainability. They say that's very hypocritical. The activist Greta Thunberg may still show up in the days to come. She has launched a cease and desist letter, a petition calling for new fossil fuel projects to be halted. That petition has nearly 1 million signatures so far. This opposition to the presence of oil and gas CEOs is one of the things that I'll be putting later on to the CEO of the Norwegian giant Equinor. I'll be interviewing him later on today. Lots on the agenda here, and we'll bring it all for you on France 24.
Kate Moody in Davos, Switzerland. Thank you very much.